Hey guys, this is Boho with the Info, and this is our second channel that we're putting a show out. So I will be putting this in the Twitter. If you are not a member, follower, subscriber, or hit the bell on the notification on this, please follow the link of this video to get over to the other channel, and then make sure that you're subscribed and hit the bell. Because I'm going to be doing shows on two different channels right now. So here's the thing. I need to show you guys something that's coming up with everything that's happening in the world, and one of them here is going on with this election, and I'm just going to check back and forth on my feed to make sure everything's okay here. But in fact, I'm going to even move this down smaller, and again, there we go. Okay, so let's go over to this. There we go. Okay, so anyway, yeah, you guys need to check into this, because there's evidently already starting a fraud with the elections, and this was uncovered by Project Veritas. You guys probably seen some videos on the internet on it. Check it out. He is verified. Okay, so what's going on here is a cash for ballots fraud was uncovered by the Almar in the Minnesota district and Project Veritas. So Veritas has gone undercover, busted the ring basically of what's happening in the world and what's happening with this. And I'm going to read a little bit about it so you can get some insight on it. But it says a scheme run by so-called ballot harvesters in the Republican Almar, and I can't say the name because of the way the filtration of the problems in YouTube and other places in social media. So bear with it. You can look at the article for what it's worth and the names, okay? But it says they uncovered a shocking expose from Project Veritas in a segment. Alleged ballot harvesting by Liban Mohan and his brothers in the Minneapolis City Council member of Jamal and Osman is seen sifted through piles of ballots in his car in a video posted in his own Snapchat channel under the name King Librarian 1. And it says here, money is everything, money is the king of the world. If you ain't got money, you don't have anything. So yeah, and it says here his car was full of ballots evidently, and this was on Twitter. You can double check on Twitter under James O'Keefe, but it says the cash for ballots harvesting was exposed. So it's important that we have a fair election, you know what I'm saying, that there's no hidden problems or cheating or whatever else going on, I guess, corruption connections and so on, and payoffs. But evidently this was uncovered, and so I want to go ahead and maybe play this if you guys can hear it. Oops, wait a minute, hang on, let's go back. I forgot I gotta do the volume. I'm trying to get used to this new system, guys, so bear with me here, okay?
Scene of the crime. The person you're about to meet, Liban Mohammed, aka King Liban 1, boasts about
Now pay attention to that name. You guys can research that name.
the hundreds of absentee ballots in his car.
Numbers don't lie. Ujeeda gaariga waa buuxaa, waxaas waa absent ballot salka yaala, soo ma jeedi. Fiiri, waxaas oo dhan soo ma jeedi. Waa buuxaa gaariga.
See, so he's saying his car is full, his car is full of ballots.
Waa buuxaa yaala. Waxaas kullu waa Jamal Usman wey, fiiri. 300 clear maanta soo dhacday waa Jamal Usman.
And he was sending it to that person that you see on the screen, which is part of supposedly Minnesota's council.
Yeah.
There was video. You can see the video. There was a video out and about that he has the ballots in his car. Right. And talking about the only way you can win is with money. I was looking at them and they were not filled.
Now, I want you to pay attention to something for all my listeners out there. Remember how we are always investigating, discussing how the grassroots organizations on the Democratic side always have some kind of payoff, money, reverse money trail that leads up to, Mr. Big S there and so on. Look into the Labor Party. Okay, the Labor Party is also one of those grassroots organizations that's under the Democratic Party.
Who is the one filling out the absentee ballots? People who work with, like at Omar. Where do they pay the money? The minute we sign the thing, the election, that's what you get paid. Money.
Isn't that interesting? So every time that they get someone signing their signature and give them a ballot on that, and they're collecting it from them, you know what I'm saying? They get paid per every ballot.
It's everything. Money is the key in this world. If you ain't got money, you should not be here, period.
You hear that? That's to all the poor people, in blacks, whites, whatever. See, and they're taking advantage of the elderly. You notice that? It says, and the ballots is taken away from the elderly. So they're fully taking advantage of the elderly.
At the end of the street,
Yes.
there's 3 towers for 1 house.
Okay.
And it's all seniors. And they
See that? So there's a tower at the end of the street of seniors. So think about that if you have a retirement home where there's a bunch of seniors living in it, and you got a guy coming by and saying, hey, I'm collecting the ballots and all this. He's collecting all those ballots, which probably houses for seniors anywhere from 100 to 1,000 people, and that's easy money for them, getting money off of every single one of those ballots that they collect. So if he had let's say 100 ballots that he collected from one retirement home or one tower or whatever it is, okay, and let's say he is getting let's say $10 off every person times 100, that's $1,000, right?
took every ballot.
Every ballot. They just take
Every
them from
single
them.
ballot. They knock on the door and say, your ballots come, give it to me, give it to me.
They don't even pay them for it. They just take them.
No. And the ones that didn't vote on ballots, the young people and the women and stuff, they were paying cash. They were getting bags of money the last time we were here.
See that? So the Muslims are taking advantage of these particular Muslims. They happen to be, I guess, bad ones maybe, or wherever they are. I don't know. Maybe they're not Muslims. Maybe they're somebody else. But I'm just saying, maybe they are, you know what I'm saying, they're taking full advantage of the whole system of the situation of the ballots and voting system, okay? And not only utilizing it for even getting the actual individual ballots and the collection of them where they get paid for each one of them, but then they're also asking like the younger people and the women for money in order for them to cast their vote and so on, which, you know,
People to drive people. So there's a vested interest, but we are victims of the system. They don't give a shit about any money.
2 in the morning, still hustling.
Who is the one filling out the absentee ballots? People who work with, like at Omar and other candidates work for them.
now I'm sorry he brought up the name, you know, the Omar thing, and I'm sorry, but she needs to be stripped of all her security clearance, her political affiliations, and fired.
They came to us to our apartments. They tell us that this year you're going to go away. You don't go nowhere, you stay home. You don't fill up, so you have to take ballot. When chemists will come and get it. You just go nowhere, you stay here.
Now that's interesting because nobody knows this, but right now, until now, that I've done an investigation in Sarasota County. Sarasota County is doing the same thing with the Democratic Party. This is Sarasota County, Florida. They had ads on Craigslist, and if Project Veritas hears this, I'm turning it over to you guys. But Sarasota County had the Democratic Party looking for canvassers roughly a month to 3 months ago, and we're currently going in, well, it's the end of September, going into October, and the canvassers were being paid $20 an hour. Now, to me, this sounds like the same thing. What do you think? So anyway, yeah, you can see more of his video. You can re-review it or whatever, but look for the Project Veritas and stuff like that in that situation. And I don't know why this is up here, but yeah, it says here, according to them, August 11th, and then let's see where else here that happened, and then also it says that you're taking money and saying money is everything. Campaign manager by money. You cannot campaign with 200 or 100, but you got a grandmother, the grandmother or grandfather, you cannot campaign with that. You gotta have an investment on the campaign. You've got to have fundraisers. So the scheme was uncovered by Omar Jamal and the chairman of Somali Watchdog Group. And it says Jamal works for Ramsey County Sheriff's Department and a political insider who is active within the city Somali community. So he was a whistleblower, I guess. And I know the T-Man, he's fully aware of what's going on with this. And honestly, I mean, if anybody on the political sense is not doing something about this, they should be fired as well. But honestly, this is enough to put, as long as an Omar name was connected to this, it's enough to basically strip her of her political abilities from now on and currently, and should be held under arrest with the connections to this, and all her security clearances and money refunded to the American people of her job duties as well as everything else. So yeah, you guys can check it out. I thought that was kind of interesting, and yeah, wow, something you guys got to follow up with. Now another thing here, real quick, is paradox-free time travel they found was mathematically possible according to a lot of scientists that done research in this area, and they stumbled and came across some interesting things that were colliding with the CV. And they say that travel in time is an attempt to stop the CV patient zero from being exposed to the virus. So evidently they're working between those two paradoxes, I guess, with a connection on learning, beyond the Einstein theory about the possibility of time travel, which I thought was kind of interesting. You guys can check that out. It's in the Sci News area. But yeah, kind of interesting that they would correlate the CV and time travel together, kind of thing, But it says wide range of applicants, allowing us to send rockets to planets and modeling on fluid flow and all this stuff. But it says also, however, Einstein's theories generally relatively predicts the existence of time loops and time travels, where an event can be both in the past and in the future itself, theoretically turning and studying the dynamics in its head. Now, this is what's interesting for those who do or do not follow any of this kind of stuff. If you ever see some of the time travel movies, I'm trying to think of the name of that one, but it was with a young girl, and then she took, by accident, ingested some kind of drug that made her mind travel in time or something, and then she went back. Gosh, I can't think of the name of it. Maybe later on in the show. But anyway, if you look at time, what is time? Time, is a motion, right? the more you speed it up and the faster you speed up, like the speed of light, right, you don't see it. So, you know, there's no time there, right, to see it, because time, you know, is how things go, like motion pictures, right? And if you speed it up, it's like a flash, like a speed of light, and you don't see it. But if you slow it down, the same thing happens, right? So it is possible, between the slowness, the fastness, to in-betweenness, and learning about all that stuff, then it may be possible where they can time travel. For those who read Einstein's theories and other theories that are out there. But evidently it says here, Dr. Fabio Costa from the Center of Engineered Quantum Systems in the School of Mathematics and Physics in the University of Queensland found a way square the numbers, and their calculations would have fascinating consequences for science. And it says the math checks out, and the results are the stuff that of science fiction, Costa said. Time travel is an attempt, so it says, say you time travel as an attempt to stop the CV, but patient zero from being exposed from the virus. But however, if you stop that individual from being infected, that would only eliminate the motion for you to go back and stop the pandemic in the first place. This is a paradox that inconsistency often leads people to think that time travel cannot occur in the universe. Some physics say it's possible. Logically, it's hard to accept because that would affect the freedom to make an arbitrary action. It would also mean that time travel, you cannot do anything that would cause a paradox to occur. Teams also show none of these conditions to be the case, and possible events to adjust themselves logically in consistency with any other actions of time traveling makes. So that's true, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, it's an interesting dynamic to read about, and if you find this article on the web, I encourage you to check it out. Here, you guys can see the whole thing, right? There you go. But yeah, check that out. That was an interesting article. And then here's another one, dealing with a new type of magnetoelectric effect of discovery, a magnetic field. Now, a lot of people are studying the stuff around Earth with electrical fields, not only with magnetism, but electrical fields in storms for lightning, which gives you like plasma lightning. Also electrical being in earthquakes, electrical being in volcanoes, electrical being in life itself, in your brain cells, and so on and so forth. Anyway, it says small charges of direction of magnetic field can switch the electrical properties and paramagnetic rare earth material. The helium dope langasite, which is a completely different state according to new research published by the Journal of Quantum Materials. And this gives you the crystalline structure. You guys can look that up if you want to. But it says whether the electrical magnetic properties are of a crystal or a couple of non-depths of crystal internal systemetry. The co-lead author of Professor Andre researched at the Institute of Solid State Physics at TU Wien. If a crystal has a high degree of symmetry, if one of them has a crystal exactly mirror the image of the other side, then the theoretical reason is that they can be no magnetoelectric effect. So that's like having two sides of a magnet the same way, right? They'll stick together. But if they're opposite, maybe they have the effect. That's what I'm thinking, right? So the structure of the palladium dope langasite is a systematically that should be not allowed for the effect. It says, in the case of weak magnetic fields, there is indeed coupling whatsoever of the electrical properties of the crystal. Now let's think about that. For those who, there is YouTube channels out there that study a lot of this stuff with Earth, and the effects of magnetic fields and anomalies, okay? If, let's say, there is a weakness in our Earth somewhere where we have a weak magnetic field, you know, gotta ask yourself this question: are we digging up maybe too much stuff like magnetite and taking it out of the ground? Are we taking out too many crystals out of that area from the ground? Because sometimes when you strip mine for like copper and strip mine for gold and other things, you can also do the same effect with strip mining with minerals like crystals and stones and things like that, which reacts in a different electric magnetical pole, right? And if you pull out the balance in that particular area of the Earth, my theory is it's highly possible to offset the magnetics of the Earth in that particular area, meaning that it would have a flux, that it wouldn't act and behave the way it's supposed to be acting and behaving, and it would cause a weakness, right? So yeah, anyway, let's see, it says here the crystal still systematically is but the magnetism of the atoms have been taken into account as well with the breaking of symmetry. The electrical polarization of the crystal can be changed with one magnetic field. When a positive and a negative charge of crystal, they're displaced a little bit. In respect to each other, this would be easy to achieve an electric field due to electricity magnetic effect and the magnetic field. Let's say magnetic field polarize. So let's see. So yes, remember I told you everything. So basically it's almost saying the same thing what I just told you guys. Basically saying that, you know, if you take too much crap out of the ground, like your stones, your gems, your crystals, your magnetite and all that stuff, that it can have a weakness in the magnetic field of that particular area of the Earth. Why? Because it needs the components of crystals and certain stones to create that electric magnetic field. Think about that. Right? And if there was any direct way, it says here, to switch off the magnetic properties of the solid state memory of electric field, this would have been a breakthrough. So it says, let's see. So it says here, let's see, let me go back into this a little bit. It says here, in the next step, we'll try to change magnetic properties. If this succeeds, it would promise a new way to store data on solids. In magnetic memory, such as computer hard disks, magnetic fields are needed for today. Generally, magnetic coils are required for relatively large amounts of energy and time, which is true. If you see a computer or your phone, you got some way to store your data on it, right? Now, here's the thing. I've done studies on crystals a long time ago, and I believe there are certain crystals, like what they call Lemurian crystal, where they said supposedly, according to even the Atlantis situation, was an actual crystal that you could actually see where it stored information on, right? So let's just say that that information is the actual kinetic part of the electromagnetism that they're talking about. What do you think? You know? I mean, you know, especially when they're saying, you know, there's, you know, ways where there's a to make a magnetic field weak, but also a magnetic field stronger. So if you were going to make it stronger, you would put more of them together maybe, and less of them all apart, right? Or vice versa. But it deals with polarization, so it depends on how the polarities of crystals and rocks and minerals and gems, along with everything else that's going on in the ground, polarizes with each other, okay? And which ones are basically clustered together, okay? Because sometimes when we pull stones out of the ground, crystals out of stone, they're clustered, right, sometimes. So what clustered them together? See? And that's a part of magnetics, right? Just something to think about. Interesting science thing. But you guys can check out this too. But it has to, it gets you to wonder and think about things, right? In a different sense that we normally talk about, Also, too, I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but it says, this was in the UK, a horror of U.S. meat from hell pumped full of hormones that could flood the Britain market. So, you know how Britain is with their own beef and stuff like that? Well, now they're fearing U.S. beef because we're pumping it full of, our, steroids or whatever for the cattle and stuff like that. But it says here, says tens of thousands of cattle crammed into pens waiting to be slaughtered. And it says here that knowing how the feed mills are and what they give them to keep them healthy, they also give them other things too, to get them to grow faster. And you know that with hormones and things like that, right? So evidently they want to ban a lot of the U.S. Meats that are coming into the UK, and they don't want a lot of U.S. stuff because they know it's pumped full of steroids and other things. And not that UK had, what was it, mad cow way back when, I mean, honestly, I think, here's the thing they're worried about, even with the chickens and iceberg and everything else. They're talking about everything in the U.S., you know what I mean? See? And beggars can't be choosies right now. If you're hungry, you're hungry, you know what I mean? But like even the chicken, getting chlorinated chicken with just the tips of the iceberg that they're being fed, or hormones and high amounts of antibiotics, crops grown with illegal pesticides that are harmful to bees and killing bees, also flooding sugar and ultra processing products, promoting massive market spending without labeling and not really telling us what's in our food. Which I agree there. FDA needs to relabel our stuff with cautions on it with pesticides that can cause cancer and steroids and antibiotics and things that they're putting in our meats of any sort. You know what I'm saying? But evidently, I guess they're really combing through the U.S. Food chain for UK area, and that they're on alert right now because of the beef more so than anything else. And I guess they do a high trade with beef with them, and so yeah, they're just worried that they might have another outbreak, probably. You know what I'm saying? But it was, even if this was fake news, okay, regardless if this might have been fake news or whatever their situation is, okay, you still have to question how safe is our food. It makes no difference what kind of fake articles you could possibly read in the world, from whatever direction of the world it comes from whatever direction of the country. You still have to question on how safe is our food. How is our food made? Is our packing plant sanitized? Is it inspected like a restaurant is to be sanitized? Is it inspected as often as a restaurant is to be sanitized? Is the actual cattle being tested for different types of bacteria, viruses, and so on, and flu, just like a human is? It makes no difference what the animal is, whether it's beef, chicken, pork, whatever. They should be tested the same way like a human. Everything that us humans have to go through, those animals need to go through just as much. And just as much as we go out to eat, those animals go out to eat. They may not go to a restaurant, but they go to the trough, And is that trough or that feeder, sanitary like a restaurant is? these are the questions that we need to raise out of the fake news to say, hey, you know, it's time for us world to clean up our backyards and to clean up our farms and clean up our things as if it was our own restaurant, as if it was our own home, and to increase the public knowledge and public attention to the FDA and other agencies in the world on food, and be able to, you know what I'm saying, be more sanitary and more liable as if you were going out to a restaurant or a grocery store. You know what I'm saying? And then the food labels need to be changed, not the quantity of the food now. This is not a manufacturing thing. We don't put less food in a package and charge more for the price, which is price gouging, by the way. And anybody that's doing that, which they are doing right now, is not being held liable for. And I think the manufacturers need to be held liable for price gouging the food, because they're putting food in smaller packages and you're paying more for the bang of it and the way they're advertising. So, you know, we need to look at, even for preppers, need to look at the quantity of what we're getting for the bang of whatever we do of food. You know, whether it's off the shelf, whether it's in emergency storage food, if it's, you know, MREs or whatever it may be, you know. So anyway, just thought I'd bring you guys this quick update and little show. It will be posted in Twitter, and for your availability, I will work on other shows through the week. They may come from either station, whether it's regular Boho or Boho 2. Look for it in Twitter. Make sure that you follow on both, because you'll get notified then of the shows. Also, make sure you follow the Twitter and you become a follower on Twitter. That way, if something's happening on one channel and you didn't get notified in the other one, at least you'll see it in Twitter, and then you can follow and read all about it or listen to it. So anyway, this is Boho with the info. We're over and out. We'll see you next time. Take care.